Hello.
Good morning, everybody. We're having a nice group come together on this Friday. Welcome to Community Counseling Center's in-service training for the Student Mental Wellness Program. Oh, great. Just going to say hi to people as they come in. Sydney Eaker, nice to have you. Holland, Gianna, Dina, of course, Jyll Maxwell, Jay Brenneman, myself. Allison's popping in. We are recording this and it's going to go up on the YouTube. So anybody who can't make it or needs to review it will be able to.
Allison, I want to go where that picture is.
Oh, I got to pop over where. All right. Great. Jay, did you want me to start with a screen share of the procedures while I do my intro, or do you want to hold off on that?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to our training, which is really all about empowering our clinicians that are working in the schools to be able to enter their own new student clients. Since most of you are in direct contact now with schools and are getting referrals and paperwork, we wanted to start to transfer some of the admin load directly to clinicians to speed up your ability to work with and get appointments scheduled for your student clients. So this should be really helpful and productive in that way. Jay and Jyll have been finalizing a nice procedures document that I'm screen sharing right now. I'm just going to do a brief intro and then I'm going to pass it over to Jay and Jyll. And while they're getting going, I'm going to email you all right now with this procedures document so that you have it. And you can follow along via the document as well as through Jay's screen share. He's going to screen share SimplePractice and walk you through these steps so that you can have the tools for new student client entries. I think before we get going, I did want to mention that Jyll would like to say a few words about reminding everybody about who your key points of contact are on the school campus for gathering up referrals and student information, as well as just resources, accessing a scanner on campus, etc. So without further ado, I am going to let Jyll do a little piece about key resources on campus, and then we're going to launch into the actual meat and potatoes of the training. So Jyll, did you want to talk a little bit about key contact people and resources on campus?
Sure. Thanks, James. This is just kind of a simple reminder that any of you who are new to the schools, each different school has its own little atmosphere and team of specialists that will work with our clinicians and a crisis team. So your key players, again, are always your principal, your nurse, your school psychologist, and the secretaries. Each school will probably have two secretaries. One does more of the attendance, and then one will usually be the assistant to the principal. So really get to know those resources in case you need something quickly, or you always have access to the CUME files, but those get very cumbersome and big and they're hard to look through and there's no rhyme or reason. So really get to know those key players. And then on a secondary level, if your school, there are a few schools that have crisis teams. So get to know those key players as well. It could be a teacher on a special assignment, which they call TOSA. It could be a group of teachers and or support staff for the school. So really get to know those, get their emails, their phone numbers, and know where your closest phone is in case you have a crisis or something and you really need to call for help. So that's really super important. And the other thing is, back in the olden days, a couple of years ago, we used to have to carry files with us. So paper files, nothing, we're just kind of moving into the electronic age. So just a quick reminder that any file or any paperwork that you have from a student or a client needs to be in a double locked box, which means you can carry a briefcase with a lock, a lockbox with a lock. And the second lock would be your front door lock, your car lock, if you're transferring back and forth. For CCC, they're in a locked file cabinet behind a locked door. And then we also have the front door. So that's just as a quick reminder. If you are keeping student art, that counts for the same thing. And the school can provide you with a file cabinet if you don't want to transfer it back and forth. And if they don't have one in your area or your space, let me know and I can work with the school.
Great. Thank you for that, Jyll. I think we were also pointing out that it is nice when we get a completed referral form from the school. And it's also nice if you foster those relationships, you can ask for a copy of the demographic form from the cumulative file, which is really helpful, points out custody arrangements and other key information. So I just wanted to point that out, Jyll. I think we were saying that's one other little just added skill set you can have if you're aware of getting the demographic form. It tends to fill in a lot of the blanks.
It does. And usually we've asked the PPS counselors to provide that.
Yeah.
But yes, if you don't get it, it's really simple for any of the secretaries at the front office to go ahead and print that for you. And it is the most up to date with the student picture, who they live with, custody orders, language, any type of special notes that the child may need. And you can kind of fill in the blanks, which will complement this input procedure.
Great. Okay, before I hand it over to Jay, I wanted to point out one other training resource that is going to be coming up, and I will distribute it to all of you via email during this meeting. But yeah, collaborative between the county, SELPA, MHSA, and a local clinical psychologist, Dr. Joe Hollifield. He actually was a former district psychologist for San Luis Coastal, so great tie-in. But he and one of his interns are going to be doing a free training on October 21st on triaging dangerous behavior in therapy, understanding threat frameworks, and mental health practice. This is really helpful. There's a program called BHARP that Dr. Hollifield is implementing with some MHSA funding. And what it essentially allows for is assessment, risk assessment, threat assessment for some of those students that are moderate to severe in that tier 3. We now have an actual program that can handle some of that assessment and potential treatment for students that fall into that category. Obviously outside of our scope within the schools, but really good to know about as a resource that's available in the county. So I will email that out, and you guys have another training opportunity coming up. Looks like for licensed therapists, there'll be CEUs as well. So spread the word. And without further ado, Jay, do you want to do your screen share on SimplePractice? And I am going to email out the procedures and documents to you all now, so that what Jay's walking through is in your back pocket at any time. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, James.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So can you all see the SimplePractice screen share? Yep, it's up there. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through entering a new client into follow exactly the directions that we mailed out, that James is mailing out to you now. And so you will see it here for the first time, then you'll be able to go back to the directions and do it all again. It is not difficult, it is detailed. So I ask that when you do follow the procedures that you literally, I've spent quite a bit of time, just go literally through every one of them, and you can probably get through each client in 5 minutes once a few times. So it seems complicated, but just remember it's easy. There's just a bunch of steps. Also, just a note to say that that life is all full of exceptions. So this entry is mostly of a normal sort of basic client. I've included some contingencies, but if you end up entering a client and you have questions about how to enter this client because they seem to be an exception to some of these rules, just definitely give me a call. It's important that they get entered correctly, and not so important that I sit here unbothered by anybody. All right, so you'll start by clicking create and then choosing create client. It brings up this window, which you'll just go from top to bottom in this window and click anything you need. So that begins with choosing minor, because you're entering a minor, and then their first name, last name. For email address. So for most clients, you will not enter an email address. If you do enter an email address, it's likely to be for a self-consenting minor, and in which case you will never use the district issued email. You only ever use a personal email. Jyll, do you maybe want to, you're better explaining why than I am. Do you want to maybe pop in there and say why?
Sure. For a couple reasons. One, there may be a time that the student needs to go on telehealth for quarantine reasons or for whatever, just because we still are in a pandemic. The other thing is all the, for the school district, I can speak for San Luis Coastal, all of their equipment is HIPAA compliant, but you're working with a giant entity of people, and they can cut and paste and send emails to outside sources, which then makes it not HIPAA compliant. So also the email addresses for the school district can't be used outside of the server, the school server. So if you're someplace else, it doesn't work. So it's just for best practice and for simplicity, just get an email address. And if the student, and for the elementary schools, they kiddos probably don't need them, but for some of the maybe middle schools or high schools, that would be super helpful. And most of them have them. If not, you can offer to help set one up for them.
Great. So if you do enter one, we'll go there. You can then choose if you'd like to send an email reminder 24 hours before the appointment, that you could choose here. If they have a phone number, same. It's also okay to leave either of these blank.
Right.
You'll see here that billing type, this one will automatically be selected as self-pay. We want it to be insurance. This is how we tell the system that the school contract is paying. So insurance. The primary clinician will probably be pre-selected as yourself, but if it's not, you can change it here. The location will also automatically be video office. SimplePractice sees itself as a telehealth platform, but for you, you'll change this to school campus. Okay, so we've literally touched everything on this screen except now we go to contact. So every minor in SimplePractice is required to have a contact entered as first name and last name. If, by the way, you try to get out of here without entering a contact, it'll bring you to the contact screen and go, wait, you gotta enter a contact. So you can go ahead and enter the contact. We want as much information here as is appropriate. So if you have a self-consenting minor, it may not be particularly appropriate to enter a bunch of information here. But if you have a minor whose parents are consenting, then enter whatever you need here. You can choose to send them an email reminder 24 hours before the appointment. Just know that I've gotten some calls from parents who've got those reminders and are very confused because the students are being seen on the campus and they're thinking, wait, am I supposed to be doing something? So, you know, that might depend on the relationship you have with the parent. You can also send text reminders to the parent. This parent relationship to student will be pre-selected as parent, but there's other options. So you can choose whichever option you like. You can add new contact here, which is a new feature that I actually didn't know existed until just now, to be honest. So you can enter as many contacts here as you like. My instructions will tell you how to enter a contact from a different place, which I'll show you in a moment. Self-insurance, primary clinician, and location will still be selected from the first page. So once you have all this, you can hit create and continue. If you have entered an email address for either the student or the contact, SimplePractice gives you the option now of sending consent forms through SimplePractice. The client gets an email with a link in it that they can click to open their client portal, where they can review and electronically sign their consent forms and fill out some basic demographic information if they like. This is preset for the sliding scale program, sorry. So it means that you have to uncheck and check some boxes. There'll be a list in the instructions of which boxes to check. It includes consent for telehealth. No, it doesn't actually include consent for telehealth, but it includes notice of privacy practices and EHR consent. You'll get rid of the sliding scale stuff. But also in here is a school parent legal, where is that? School, here we go. School parent legal minor self-consent in English, or parent legal minor or self-consent in Spanish, and a treatment consent in English and Spanish. For clinicians who have worked with us before, this treatment consent stands where the parent letter used to stand, and it looks very much like this. So for whatever you want to send, you click it. You unclick what you don't want to send, and then continue to parent. Well, I just actually sent that to the kid's email address. You would check or uncheck whatever you want here. Continue to email. Then it shows you what you're writing to each the student and the parent. You can edit this if you like. Just make sure you don't edit this instruction is for SimplePractice to send a link, so don't change that. It reviews it in here and you share it and send now. It's going to give me a problem in a moment because I didn't actually send it to real addresses, but you can clear OK, and it brings you to the student's screen. If we have entered the student client and we're not sending any of that through email, at the bottom, at that first screen, there's a cancel button. You just cancel it and don't have to go into it at all. For some people at this point, it gets a little confusing because SimplePractice doesn't necessarily bump you right to the student file. You can always search for the student up here, and it will bring it right up. I also hear that refreshing the page can help, so feel free to refresh the page. Any of those things will get you back to the student file. Okay, so now we're in the student file. These are all tabs that can be of use to you. Right now, we're just going to look at the edit tab. So go right ahead, right into the edit tab. It allows you to change everything about the client that you need to. So scroll down, down, happy things here. You can see you're assigned to the client. These you entered before when you entered the phone number and email address, but you can change any of that here if you've changed your mind or you realize it's wrong. You don't have to send text appointment reminders. You don't have to send appointment reminders. If this happens to still say video, you can change it back to school. This is a great second check for yourself. Then you should enter the parent's address. Okay, and always a date of birth. So it's a very young kid. Any of this can come from the school demographic sheet, which Jyll explained that it's really great to be friends with the people in the front office because you can just always walk in and ask for that. Okay, so in the referred by section, when you click on that, it gives you a list of well, we don't actually use this for referrals, we use this for tracking purposes. So when you start to type in your school district, the options should come up. So you can search in the referral box for the school that you're looking for. And then you always hit save client. If you try to leave this screen without saving it, it'll go, wait a minute, you were changing things. Do you want to change things or do you want to keep them? So you want to keep them. Save it, and then you can exit the screen safely. Billing and insurance. So I'm just going, but I did, it's just behind. Oh, wait, what did it say? Oh, it doesn't like this, sorry. Okay. All right, so just going over to billing and insurance. So you should have clicked insurance on that earlier screen, but if you didn't, it'll show you here. So this is another good double check. Make sure you hit insurance. Insurance information is how SimplePractice charges it to the school district. So this is where you want to be careful to enter your school district. San Luis Coastal, also Atascadero. Note that there is not, if you try to search for the for your acronym, it will not come up. So I guess Atascadero Unified it might. So Unified, nope. So you want the full name, and then you'll get the one you can choose. That's the only thing you need to enter in insurance information. There's nothing else here that is of any consequence for the kind of charging that we're doing. As you scroll down, each client needs a default service, and this means how you're seeing the client. For school clients, we choose psychotherapy 30 minutes, which automatically populates to a rate per unit of 0, which is correct, so you don't need to change that. Then again, if you try to leave this screen that you've made changes, it says no, you can't. You have to hit the save client before you do. Then, if you didn't already enter a contact on an earlier screen, and my instructions actually reflect this version, you can enter a client contact here. So you'll just add contact. This is a helpful feature. You can search for another contact in the system. I'm already contacted in the system, so I can just add myself as a contact to this child's profile. So and save. Or if the system doesn't have this person, you can add contact and new contact and enter a new contact. Choose whatever you like here. You can enter whatever you like here. You can choose if voice text messages are okay. La-di-da. All right. What else? So I think I've caught up to entering everything we need to enter.
Jay, may I mention
Yes.
there's a manage button also. So let's say that you really just, you want to get the client on the schedule, because you want to see them, maybe the parent said, just send me the paperwork through SimplePractice. And now you're going to go back in at a later time that day or another day and put in the rest of the information. Then you can go up to contact and you can hit manage.
Right. So that's a great point, Jyll. So from this page, from any student page, you can choose edit again to get to the contact section. And then any contact has this manage button. So you can manage how you can change the information. You can edit appointment reminders, which means you can ask it to send text or email appointment reminders if there's a phone number or an email address in there. You can give this person access to the client portal if they have an email address, and at which point you can also send forms.
Did I see Allison raise her hand? Did you want to ask a question, Allison?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you need to email consent forms again to a parent, how to do that. And it just seemed like that would have been the place to do it.
That is one place to do it. The easiest place to do it is from this screen. So everything can start here. If you scroll down on the bottom to the right a little bit, there's a box called shared with client. This is asking me to make it bigger. So this client was sent all these forms, but if you need to resend them, you can delete the forms that were sent if they weren't signed. You can choose share new, and then choose which of the people you can choose the student or which of the contacts you'd like to send those forms to, and it brings you right back to this screen. So you can send whatever new forms you want. You can see what was sent already, and send it again. Sorry, I've got a very small screen here. I'm having to do a little bit of Jenga to have access to the full screen. There we go, continue the email. And then it brings you back to this place and right through. Sending a bunch of emails that don't actually go anywhere today. But that again is in the shared with client box and then share new. So the next thing in my instructions is the sort of, once you've entered entered the information that you need to, this is the only student file, which means any information that we have that came through on paper needs to be uploaded to this file. There are basically 4 ways of doing it. So one is for you to scan the completed intake packet to your computer, and then upload it to this uploaded files section. So under the shared files section, you have uploaded files. You can upload new, and it will search on your computer for whatever files you might have there that you can add and upload them. You can also click from your desktop and drag right into this. So I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you see this happening? No, it won't let me do it. There it is. You can just click from your desktop and drag it right over that box and drop it, and it will upload it to the client file. Option 2, you can, most schools, from what I understand, have a HIPAA compliant scanner in their office. So if you know those folks in the front office, you can just go up and ask if you can use a scanner, or if they can't let you use it, if they'll use it for you, and scan those documents through and email them to me. It's jay@cccslo.com, JAY@Community Counseling Center San Luis Obispo.com. Another option is you can fax those into us at our fax number, and if you need that, you can give me a call. Or just bring the paper file to the office. We can scan them and upload them to the file for you. So we just want to make sure that all of the scanned files get uploaded to the SimplePractice student profile. We also want to make sure that happens in a fairly timely way. So holding onto the papers until the end of the semester and leaving the client file without any consent forms in it is not a best practice. We want to make sure that, you know, you might gather those consent forms. I know that your week is busy, but I might say that we should get those into that client file by the end of the week in one of these 4 ways.
Correct. And then just a little reminder that make sure you know your computer system. It is not HIPAA compliant to have those documents on your computer system necessarily, unless it's encrypted. If it's not encrypted, make sure that when you delete files, there are specific programs that will allow you to really delete files. They don't just kind of hang around waiting. So just make sure you know that. And if you're unsure, then maybe choose a different way. And I'm also available to help for whatever reason you need. If you need it super quickly, like that instant, I can also help or walk you through it or whatever else you need.
Great. And maybe it was already mentioned, but once files are uploaded, consent, referrals, right, the demographic form from the CUME file, if you're so lucky to have that too, afterward, once they're securely uploaded, those files can be shredded. We're not holding on to those, correct?
Right. Yes, correct.
I have a question. Right. Do you mind if I ask?
Yes.
So at my schools, I've suggested the electronic consent forms and all that, and nobody is like bitten on that one. And so they've been waiting and waiting, and then they finally get the stuff back and all that kind of thing, which is fine. And then I did it again. I said, oh, wow, thanks for, waiting and continuing to remind them. And just let me know if there's ever parents that are, able to do it with technology, and I can, do it directly. And so that's just what I've done so far. But if anybody has, advice on that to do it differently, I'd love to hear.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Dina. So because of the electronic nature now, and we used to have paper form, we're letting the schools kind of do what's comfortable. We can also kind of take the lead in that, and they may be very grateful. If the PPS counselor, or for a Tascadero, I believe it's the principals or somebody on a special assignment, once they've contacted the families to say, hey, you know, your student might need a little bit extra help. What do you think? The parent says yes. And then the forms are kind of in process. At that point, if you've asked permission from the PPS counselor to contact the parent, then you're welcome to do so and then offer that. Once they kind of know who you are and your title and you're there to help, a lot of times they'll say, oh, okay, I'll create the portal. And then the portal can also be used on devices, and it's Telehealth by SimplePractice. That's the app. A lot of times they're really excited to just, you know, do it that way. Once they know who you are and they have, you know, a little bit of a trust there, schools are so used to having paperwork sent them. Like parents are used to signing everything, hard copy. So I've just found once they meet you, it's a little bit easier for them.
All right, any other quick questions? I have one more thing for us. So the last thing to do, and this is actually a fairly important step, is that once you've entered a client in SimplePractice, send a SimplePractice secure message with the client name to me. We keep a log in the office of all the new student clients, and it's where we assign them their case number. The case number is assigned sequentially, so unfortunately that's something we can't ask you to do. But it is important that we have a list of the clients that you're seeing. So the very last thing is important, pretty please send the name of the client that you've entered to me. That also gives us a chance to review that list and make sure that all of your clients have the necessary forms, just a little bit of oversight. We want to make sure that you're backed up in this. But it is possible for you to enter a student client and for me to never know that you've done it. I don't review the global client list. So send us that name, please. And just another time to mention this, SimplePractice secure messaging is HIPAA compliant, so you can use full client names all the time.
Yes, and we had a couple really good questions. One was about artwork being locked up, and great question. And yes, we keep artwork locked up even though the students' names might not be on it. For best practice, we don't want those in somebody else's hands, or that story to be in someone else's hands. So we do lock up artwork. Since we are short term at the schools, a lot of the times the kids want that transitional item. If you feel it's appropriate and safe that child, you know, be allowed to take whatever they made in session with you, that's up to your discretion. If it's something that is a little bit, maybe needing a little bit more exploration, and you're going to bring it to your supervisor or your PPS counselor, then that needs to be locked up. The other question was, it might be a little bit confusing, but Jay has offered different ways that we can get these referral forms and all this paperwork to him. Ideally, we're empowering all of you to go ahead and enter those. If for whatever reason you don't have access or you need it right that second, then you can send it to Jay, you can send it to me, you can do whatever, but we're trying to really empower all the clinicians to go ahead and do that on their own. But I'm available.
We are, yeah, Jyll, great point. We want to put the keys in your hand, but we also want to let you know that the admin team is here. We expect that ongoing communication. We're happy to train and provide feedback or reinforcement about today. And I should probably sew this in. I don't know if it was mentioned yet, Jay, that Mia Purdon, who's also on our admin team in the case management of our SenCal Medi-Cal program, has said she has a little bit of extra time to help out. So she may be helping in kind of looking at cases that are already put into SimplePractice and reaching out to school clinicians about, hey, it looks like you might be missing this consent form. You know, what can be done for me to help support that. She's very savvy with the portal and the SimplePractice system as well. So I should let you all know that you may be hearing from Mia via SimplePractice too, as she helps with some of the chart management.
Sydney,
James?
did you have a question?
In terms of artwork as well? No, in terms of artwork as well, you can always take a picture of it with your phone and then
Yes.
upload it to SimplePractice that way. And
Yep.
then just give the artwork to the
I
child.
love
and
that you
don't have
mentioned
to worry
that, yeah.
about locking it up.
Yes, thank you, Sydney, for pointing that out.
Yeah, there's a way to upload and keep a digital record of artwork too. If, you know, it's just so odd to carry paperwork around these days, isn't it?
No, especially for us old school people. Definitely. We do that with Sandtray a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. All right. Well, don't let me get things off track. Jay, had you been able to work through your procedures?
Yeah, that was my last step. So
Nice.
just grab anytime you need to enter a client, just grab that input procedure and just go right down the list. It should work out. And if it doesn't work out, you hit any snags that are unsolvable from your point of view, then definitely give me a call.
Great. Well, we want to make good on our promise that this training would be brief, helpful, punchy, to the point. I think we've gone on about 37 minutes. So unless there's further questions, you've got the resources in your email. And Jay, Jyll, myself, and Mia are here for follow-up on any details on the training if need be. And yeah, we'll be recording this and putting it up on the YouTube. So thank you all. Any last comments?
Could you send out that other training flyer, please?
Yes, if
The
you
other
check your
training
email, it
info.
should be attached to that email. There's a PDF.
The first one you sent?
Yeah. I went ahead and just,
Oh,
put them
okay.
together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
Great.
Happy
Thank you.
Friday, everybody. Stay in touch.
too.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to the next week of October. Okay.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.